Yo, welcome back to another episode of Learning Watercolor with your host, Fordee. Today we are painting a piece called Beach Life. And if you're anything like me, you love the beach and all the beauty that it has to offer. I used a few different things here. I used 3 different watercolor paints that are in tubes. I used the turquoise, I used a phthalo blue, and then I used the raw sienna. The raw sienna, you can see me laying down lightly here with a lot of water on the bottom of the paper. Mind you, I pre-wet my paper, which is taped to the table. Obviously, if you're doing this, you're gonna get paint on the table, so maybe you want something even under this, but I don't worry about getting paint on this table since I paint on it all the time. Next, I brought in some turquoise and some phthalo blue on the top. I then used my heat gun to dry this up because I wanted to layer it here, right? I came back in with some more pigment at this point and I started to draw on those breaks, the waves that started to crash amongst each other, right? Also in the bottom, using that raw sienna that was quite diluted, I then came back and I drew or paint in a little bit with more pigment to give some differences. We're looking for depth here. It could be the movement in the sand. I also hit it with a few flicks of the paintbrush to give it some splatter, and you'll see I'll end up doing that in the waves too. At this point, I started doing a wash, both with the turquoise and the phthalo blue, but then it didn't maintain as much of the detail below as I'd like. It could be because I'm using a pretty cheap watercolor paper right here, right? So I said, okay, let's go back through it with more pigment on the brush and repaint in these breaks, which you can see I'm doing right now. In fact, on the bottom, I didn't just paint with turquoise, I also added some of the phthalo blue to give the bottom breaks closer to the sand a little more definition, huh? I'm hitting it with the heat gun right here because, you know what, we really want it to be dry before we move on. And so yeah. By the way, a shout out to my buddy Dan Mackay for providing the music that's playing underneath my voice in this video. Thanks a lot, brother. If you guys are interested, you can find a link in the description on where you can check out that track to either listen or purchase it. So here you can see that I put down the piece of paper towel to block off the sand, and then I flick some splatter onto the piece, little blue splatter, because those little blue dots I think would add some interest. You also see I started to paint white on the top left of the piece, and then I realized that the paint wasn't totally dry. So I hit it with the heat gun, I went back to those splatter, and now it's dry. In the bottom, I added a little bit more detail or a lot more white because that's where it crashes. There's definitely more white. And then as I go up, all I'm doing is creating these organic lines, no rhyme or reason, just, you know, putting them in there and not worrying about exactly how they look. I then hit it with some splatter because that will definitely give it some interest. And keep in mind, when this dries, depending on how much pigment was on your brush, will definitely determine how opaque that color is going to be. Mind you, this white is gouache, so gouache is definitely more opaque than watercolor paint. By the way, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video with your friends. I started doing these videos now pre-recorded because we don't have any interactivity in the live videos. Once we have a little bit larger of a following, people start interacting, I'll start doing live again. That way you can ask questions, you can see me non-sped up. Anyways, you can see the mistakes I make here. There's absolutely no editing other than speeding it up and adding some text here and there, etc. But otherwise, I didn't cut any of this video. So when I first started to paint, I didn't realize the black on the palette was watercolor. And if you notice, it went on translucent. Watercolor is definitely translucent. So then I added some black gouache because I wanted this to be a hard silhouette. After adding that black gouache, I started to paint in where I had outlined it with a white Posca marker. And yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I figured a turtle represents the beach. A turtle is a majestic creature. Why not add it? And here what I'm doing is covering this because I'm gonna hit it with some black splatter with that gouache. You can see it goes everywhere. But I thought it would look cool by adding that. I hit it with the heat gun because I want to dry this. And I decided to grab a Posca marker and write Beach Life on the bottom. Obviously, all of this is optional. In fact, you could have left out the sea turtle and the beach life and just had a piece that had the waves with the sand. I think it looked pretty cool at that point. Guys, I really hope you like this video and the new format. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Please share these videos with your friends. It helps out immensely. Until next time, I'm out.